Yeah, I know that story.
Continues to then ask students, but realize that eventually we're gonna ask for more stuff.
Sometimes they're just perfect. It's like, oh my gosh, it was too easy. And other times it's like, dear God, why can't I get this to work? Yeah, there really is. There's no middle ground there.
Outside, columns on.
Learn something by
I'm
doing
just
something.
gonna take it off. This is probably not gonna work. Right in my, I took it off and I remember doing the mouse. Found it,
If they don't have any
put it back on. Worked fine. Boy, that was easy.
issues, then by the end, like 20 minutes later, you can push it up, you know. We can push to 7, well, so from 8:43.
Yeah. Told the kids to go this weekend. I'm like, okay, some of the stuff breaking around the house is just happens. Some is just, you know, maybe you shouldn't have drawn on this.
Yeah,
We're dragging
can't
it
do
back
parking
and forth. It's just like, yeah, some of these things we're
Well,
supposed to stop
maybe
doing.
that's what you do.
Every weekend fixing something. I'm just like,
Both turned in and filled out, you know, I'm the blue in the third section, you know, it sounds like it's easy. Easy to do. Okay, well, then we will give that a try and
Go ahead and call the USD 49 Board of Education work session for Monday, August 31st to order. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda topics. Dean, anything special we need to go over on those?
A lot of minutes to review, personnel transactions. We will have a few of those at the next meeting. A couple of retirements that we will probably be announcing then, classified staff. And everything else will be just a report as usual.
Perfect. Next item on the agenda is the technology update. And I think Marie Henderson is here to share with us kind of how that's going for kindergarten through 8th grade.
Yeah, so a week and a half ago, we were in the middle school for 2 days and did roll out with the 660 some middle schoolers. And then since then, we've done rollout in person with 3rd through 5th graders, and then with adults handling each device with K2. We're about, I would say, between 65 and 70% of the way through with K2, and we are almost all the way through with 3 through 8. So it's really exciting. I went better than we could have ever expected when we started thinking about how the process would go. So this is the video that my husband and my children and I made to just give kids some basic instruction on iPad care before we handed out the device. So.
That's right. Today is an exciting day. Today you get your very own iPad. Now let's make sure that you know how to use it responsibly. Number 1, a responsible iPad user
carries his iPad in both hands.
Number 2, a responsible iPad user
Only uses apps and programs his teacher has instructed him to use.
Number 3, a responsible iPad user
Has clean hands when using his iPad.
Number 4, a responsible iPad user
Never has food or drink near his iPad.
Number 5, a responsible iPad user
Keeps track of his iPad and knows where it is at all times. That's right, folks.
Number 6, a responsible iPad user
Knows his teacher's rules about using his iPad in class.
Number 7, a responsible iPad user keeps his iPad in a case at all times.
He also doesn't decorate or write on the case or iPad.
Number 8, a responsible iPad user
Keeps his iPad out of restrooms
locker room.
and the cafeteria.
Yum. One last thing. Remember, your iPad belongs to Ace Public Schools and is on loan to you.
The school is happy to let you use it this year at school.
Please treat it with care and respect. Have a good day.
We saw that 7 or 8 times a day for over a week. Okay. I don't have anything else unless you guys have questions.
I do.
Go for it.
So I've already heard that there's been a request for keyboards at the middle school.
I haven't heard that.
And I know we talked about it, and I can't remember what the response was, but I'm pretty sure it was we'd wait and see. But,
Right, yeah, because every place that we checked,
Right.
those that bought them, they didn't use them very often, but
Well,
I hadn't heard.
but I'm hearing, Craig, but I'm hearing, it seemed reasonable to me because it was coming from 2 English teachers.
And
And
I've
they-
talked to them a little bit more, and they agree we need to try it. This is the adult perception still coming that they need keyboards, and they're willing to try it. They're saying, I don't think it'll work, but they're saying, let's see how the kids do on it. And I said, if you come back after a period of time and we need to try a classroom set or 2 classroom sets, we will do it. Because we haven't tried it yet, really. We have gotten less than a week of carrying the iPads and just trying to find all that's on it. So I know the English teachers you're talking about. They've visited with me, and they agree that we're going to try it over the next few weeks and give it a try. And then if they're not sold, we're going to come back and help them out on it.
Because they were talking about it for composing writing assignments.
Right.
And I know we talked about it with, what's the keyboarding expectation for middle schoolers versus high schoolers and that sort of thing. So then I guess my question is, if we get to that point where we do think it's justified, did we budget for that? Do we have money
There
for
will
that?
be money
Yeah,
there.
we're not
Okay.
talking about a big expense. If you're just talking about a couple of classroom sets when they're working on the keyboarding or the microprocessing part of it. So-
Okay.
Another solution we might look at is some of the HP laptops, creating a getting them a classroom set to use, because that is a word processing machine,
Yeah.
which is what I know the English department at the high school is using. So that may even be where they have a little more storage to save if they're looking at larger documents. So that might be something to look at.
I believe we're also teaching keyboarding in two manners. Like the grade schools are still teaching keyboarding in a computer lab. And the middle school still has a couple of computer labs where students are learning word processing, PowerPoint, Excel, those types of products. As far as in an English classroom, I do feel like that may eventually be something we would want to look at as far as a classroom set. Scott Summers coming from a district that has done an iPad rollout, they bought the keyboards and were sorry about it later.
But
that
they
was the
bought them
reason we
across
didn't
the
do 'em.
board.
They did, and he recommends waiting and seeing on classroom sets, and I just think that's a
Yeah.
And I
because in
agree
a
with
math
that, but this
classroom,
seemed-
I would never have used him as a math teacher.
No,
Ever.
but English makes sense to
Yes,
me.
English makes sense, definitely.
So, okay.
But the note-taking capabilities with a stylus in all the other in all your other disciplines where you're not composing, like you said,
Right.
I think will be.
Actually, I didn't
yeah.
know that was the appropriate word until I heard it, but yes, for composing.
I was just using your word. I think
Did
it's
I
lovely.
use it?
I'm
I
not
don't-
sure. I think that's right. Yep, the English teacher
Okay.
says yes. I think we're good.
All right.
Are they doing that in any of the, or have we looked at that, getting them actually styluses for the iPads to be able to write and do
They
any of that?
they all have a stylus. Yes.
Tools and a lot of
Yep.
them did that, because when we were rolling them out, they were right there.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see a classroom that wasn't reaching for their stylus, even just to enter their Apple ID, which they don't need, but they were so excited to use it.
And our first early release day is Wednesday, and so we had Apple Professional Development today, and the cadre met with the Apple representative this morning, then met all afternoon with Marie, and they're ready to go, and so they'll work with each of their building staffs Wednesday afternoon, and then Marie will be out at the high school because they have some different needs. They are creating an evaluation feedback, so that will help drive them when we do it in October, so we really want teacher input. So again, that's basically, we decided to start with how to be a power user on the iPad, because there's so many features that this device has without getting out into the
Right.
apps and beyond that.
Separate
So-
from all the apps,
right. So
definitely.
that's where we're starting.
We went through that training this afternoon, and I was amazed how much we learned in that 3-hour session. I mean, it's unbelievable, and I mean,
And
I
that's-
knew you could split
Right.
the keyboard, and use your thumbs, not that I would do that, but, I mean, that's just one very simple thing, but
There's some of the other
iTunes, and I didn't realize the resources
Right.
that are
Free.
are here.
Just
It was
part
just-
of the device itself that comes standard operating procedure with the
Yes, and
device.
that's what we need to learn, the teachers need to learn before we just go out and start buying all these apps,
Right.
because there's so much already here that comes with it. It's,
Yeah.
I was
It
amazed.
made me think of how we talked about differentiating and individualizing for learners, because you can highlight a word and it can speak it, you can speak another language, or it will define it for
Right.
you. And I just think
The
of
definition, yeah.
language
Reads
learners
it back
who
to
come,
you, you
who
can
need to
record it.
learn.
Right.
It is
Just they're
unbelievable
built
what it'll
in.
do.
We need to teach the teachers, so then we also
Right.
talk though, then how do we make sure the students know all these tools as well? So
But when a
that's what-
student is even reading on a website and can highlight, press and highlight a word and the definition comes up, I mean, that's just being able to continue reading with comprehension because of, and you can't, with a flat book, I mean, in a textbook situation, you can't do that. And I converted about 4 or 5 years ago to completely reading digitally, and I was reading a book, a paper book the other day, and I was like, I don't know what that word means. And I actually had to go to my phone and look it up, without being able to touch, yeah. That's a great feature.
Yeah, there's all kinds of neat things. When we were going out, I mean, Marie did such a good job of preparing everything, the video and the script, and we had gone through, and I guess we considered the first day of the pilot.
A trial.
But, and that even really, that went well. But I was really surprised how smooth it went. The kids were so excited, and you said about 70% K2, you think that
Yeah,
have them?
I think that's about where we're at, K2. You guys could correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know.
We have ways to go, I don't know about the others.
Yeah.
But,
We have a ways to go, both with Roosevelt, we're going to get on top of tomorrow, and we have Wilson, and they have a schedule for that, so it's going well.
But no, it's gone well. High school, and maybe you girls can tell us how that's going, I don't know. I've heard a lot of good things there. I think we're having some issues with the stylus. It has all kinds of different functions that it can do, and there's some issues with batteries and those things, and we're gonna look at that, see what we need to do. But other than that, I think it's gone well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shauna, how are they handling like apps and stuff like that? I know we had talked about that in the past, but like in like the different grade levels and stuff like that, are they just using free ones right now, or have the teachers had a chance like over the summer and that to pick out some of them that they like and stuff like that?
They're
Or?
submitting some app requests. There are, right now in the management system, we can push them out by grade level. We can't drill down any further. But we will ask them to fill out an application form and give us some justification for those, and then we'll make some decisions instructionally and try to be consistent. But we're getting a lot of requests. And a lady today said they might think they need an app, but once they know what the iPad can do, maybe they don't really need an app for that. And then there's some apps that we've done training on over the summer. We definitely want to get pushed out. But we'll continue to work through that process with the teachers.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. You guys have other questions? I'm going to escape. Here I go.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the bond issue.
I have been working with old Dustin Avey from Piper Joffrey, the financial folks, and Zach Sneathen, Chuck Smith. And what I would like them to do is come up with a timeline and a plan, and come and present that and have that discussion with us. We have a lot, just as we went through the retreat, we have a lot to do with PR and getting the message out, what it is, what the expectations of the public are. So I think we really need to come up with the timeline, have that discussion, what type of, I'll say town hall meetings, whatever you want to call them, but get the word out that way and help us make a decision. We can't sit here and say, okay, well, we're going to look at $50 million. I mean, we really don't have any idea. But as we go through this process, but have them put together that information for us, have them take the lead on it and get the process started. There is not a general election or in November or April of this year. And we would have to pass a resolution 90 days before the ballot would go out, whether it's mail-in or however we want to do that. So, I mean, we have a lot of flexibility. I think we'd have to look at timing, when's the best time, those types of things. But that's what I want them to put together, that timeline. And look at options and all of those things. But we really need them to come, sit down, take the lead on that, and help us get through that process. We'll have to get, obviously, committees together of people, not board members out, doing the
That'll
campaign.
continue to help
but
some of the new board members too get up to speed. So,
Yes,
I mean,
so-
some of us have heard it quite a bit, but at least that'll bring.
I
it
will
to-
make contact with them and have them start a timeline, and then we'll have the final say, obviously, in what that looks like. But, so we have something that we can get started with. So that's what I have under that bond issue update, I guess, but.
Very good.
Question.
Yeah.
Is HTK beginning to look at what we really do need based on what we've done, or?
That is in the works.
Okay.
Actually, Rusty is working with BCS, HTK, and their engineers and those things. We had, I believe BCS was the one that came in and worked on the chiller at Roosevelt, did some things with controls that helped that situation some there. What we have them doing now, they went through all of the schools and looked at the needs for HVAC and infrastructure needs that way. And what they identified now, I think, as the next project would probably be the middle school. I mean, they have the new section, obviously, but to update that, would be the biggest bang for our buck, and they're going to look at that, whether we do a bond or not. Those are the things we need to start looking at. But the architects are in the mix of that, so we can look and see what we've done, what we'd have to do. So yeah, very long answer to the yes question.
And the focus on the middle school is because of enrollment numbers, correct? I mean, it's just because of
Well,
size
enrollment
and space,
numbers,
or
but mainly it's the type of system they have and the cost. It would be for us, it would make the most sense to upgrade that system, and we would get more savings by doing that first. Some of theirs is brand new, obviously, but we're going to look at tweaking some of those things. If you go in the rooms, the new FEMA rooms, very little air flows through those, and Rusty knows what we need to do. It's not a huge dollar amount, but we need to do some changes there to get those rooms. And after being in there rolling out iPads, it needs to have a little more air for somebody like me anyway. But
Did they just not, did the original contractors did some things just
yeah,
not
that's
set
the way
correctly, or?
that was the way it was designed. I don't want to pretend I know all about it,
Sure.
Lance, but yeah, there's some issues. It isn't a big thing, but it's something that we need to do, and it'll make it much more comfortable for the class sizes we have in there, especially, and if there's a lot of movement and activity, like when we were doing the iPad rollout, it did warm up pretty quick. But Rusty will be able to explain all that stuff. But that's one of the things. We're looking at all the buildings, but that's the one that they've kind of identified that looking at first. Other questions on that?
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the board retreat follow-up for our retreat that we had on the 22nd, I think it was.
We did get the Docking Institute paperwork late this afternoon. I think you have access to that. Yeah. And if you just want to look at that, we can review really quick here. I haven't had a lot of time to go through it, but obviously we talked in great detail. I thought it was a very good discussion on the mission statement, vision statement, and then our beliefs. I think it was, whether we changed anything or not, I know we did, but it was just a good conversation, so we all kind of have a good understanding of what we feel is important. And going through the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, they're listed, opportunities, threats, all of those things, and then started setting goals. And just what I want to have you look at real quick here is we had prioritized the goals and came up with, there was 11 different ones that were identified. I think that's too many for us to really set and have come up with a document that we're going to be able to look at and use. So what I'd like you to do, and you don't have to do it right now unless you feel like you want to, but look at the goals, 1 through 11, and you can see we put the stickers by them, how many stickers each one had. Public relations was the most, one indicated the top priority, adopt practices of a quality school and things listed underneath that. I don't know when you get down to where there was, 6 or less, establish adequate level of contingency funds and capital outlay. I mean, that is a very important goal, but I think we just need to come up with a number. I don't know if we need to make that official document and those things, but what are your thoughts, I guess, on the number of goals that we have for our board goals? Any thoughts?
Well, Dean, I guess, we put our dots, and maybe we need to make sure we look again, but I think that was in terms of importance. I would say rather than knocking off some, we just simply prioritize these, and maybe importance to us is not necessarily the best way to prioritize. Maybe there's a couple things that either, it's low-hanging fruit and we could get done easier, and quicker than some others. But maybe we look at a reprioritization, but still leave all 11 on.
Okay.
But then we start working through the list.
Some
I think
of
we
the-
talked about, dedicating some work session time
Uh-huh.
to doing some of these.
Some of those lower goals possibly, maybe not set, leave them on there, but maybe not set dates or anything by them until we've completed some of the other ones or leaving them on there.
And there's some that can probably go together that way.
Right.
Do you want to, I mean, you have the list, I think, electronically as well. Just go through and see how you would rank these 1 through 11 then, and send that to Sarah or I, or send it to Sarah so we know that she gets it then. And we will start that, and I'll, well, if you turn the page, you can look at the goal that we had done together on the 22nd, but we can start that process then. And yes, we can dedicate time. If we have 11, actually, we did the one, we'll probably have to do 1 or 2 at a work session, or just dedicate some time one evening to sit and knock out 3 or 4 of them, or we're going to be doing this all year, and it'll be ready to start over again by next year. But if you look at strategies to pursue goals, then goal number 1, improving, increasing PR, and then it has up there, it had 20 votes. Now, again, we talked a lot about sharing resources and all of those things. I've had a couple questions about, are we hiring, advertising for a PR person? No, we're not doing that right now. But we wanted, the things that we have available, we want to maximize and look at this. We all know it's important. But this was the thing that we thought was most important, and obviously we're not going to be able to. Spring of 2016, it says explore the feasibility of adding full-time PR position. We will look at that time. Bond issue, that is part of what we are paying, or HDK's contract, I believe, is all included
Includes
in
PR.
the PR and doing all of that stuff. So it's not, we don't have to go out and spend that extra money for that, but we need to coordinate it and come up with a plan and do those things. I know Sarah has started to gather information from different school districts on public relations. I still think, and you tell me, Sarah, the Eudora plan and the gal that does public relations there is one of the top ones, I think, around probably. They do a lot of things with social media. They do a flyer, I don't know, they used to mail
They
it
do a
out.
monthly newsletter.
They what?
It's a monthly newsletter.
Do they still mail it?
I believe so.
Yeah. And I've been in districts, you mail it, and we quit because it'd all be in the trash at the post office when people picked them up. But, it's expected, people read it. They would mail them out to communities, outside communities as well, because we would get them even in Ottawa. But anyway, I guess your thoughts. Anything else then? I mean, do you like the way this format is? This is basically the SMART goal set up a little different what we started, but I think this would work fine. Any other input? And then obviously the goals are set up 1, 2 through 11. And then this was based on votes. So take a look at those, and if you want to re-rank those so we have an idea, and we'll just start down that line. And if we can combine or do two at the same time, I think it would help us time-wise. Like provide space and resources needed based on class size.
Does that go with 3, improving the physical infrastructure?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, Sarah.
Like there's some of them
It
that
probably
yeah.
would be, so, there's some of those things I think we can look at combining, but I will go through them again and then look for your input, and then the next time, when is our next meeting, Sarah?
September 21st.
We will, it's a board meeting, we won't sit down and do the physical or the work for this, but we'll have that discussion on where we are and have them ranked and start that process then. questions, comments? I thought they did, Docking Institute did a good job for us, and glad they got this process started. I think it's going to help us.
Dean, do you want to give us a time when you want our input on these?
If I can say next Thursday, is that too soon? Next Thursday then, please, if I can get your input.
Perfect. Any other questions for Dean on the board retreat follow-up? Okay. Seeing none, move to the next item, which is basically other topics for discussion. Looks like we have the HRC August 2015 minutes, which are attached to the agenda. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Dean?
Not to that, the minutes, I mean, they're self-explanatory. I was just going to give you some preliminary enrollment numbers again. There's two sets of numbers that I'm going to give you. One set is out of Power School, meaning, I keep thinking, there's two sets. One's out of Power School, meaning kids that are in the system. Some of those may be attending Fort Hays State, the CAMS. I think there's one. There's some IEP students that we provide services that are in here. So there's two different numbers. One of them, if this was a normal year where we would get weighting, or we would use this number. But when you look at the number of what we say butts in the seat, or kids actually in the classrooms, we're still, kids are coming and going. I think, Craig, I added 2 to your number, so if they're different, because you had mentioned you were going to have 2 this week, I think, again. So, but elementary numbers, last year we had 1,467. That is the official number on September 20th. Right now we have 1,444. That is including all of the IEP students, everything. Students that are in the classrooms, 1,431. That's 23 less this year than what we had last year. As far as
What was the Power School number?
Power schools were 1,444. So actually, I need to, that number's going to be 23. Yeah, it is 23. Yeah. The middle school numbers then, we have, I'll read these off, I guess. 214, 6th grade, 242, 7th grade, 206, 8th grade. And that was, we have to check some of those numbers, because I have 664 in the number that you have in school. Okay, so the numbers that I pulled out of Power School then don't include the IEP students.
Right.
Correct, so how many, there was like 20 or 8?
Ballpark figure.
So there would actually be about 280, I'll say 280 students in the middle school, compared to 600, or 680 this year compared to 630 last year that we got paid for. There's 664 students that are actually attending the middle school. So over a 30 student increase, about 34 student increase. High school numbers, what I got from Mr. Straub is a little different than what we pulled out of Power School today. There was 804 in Power School, which includes all of those kids, CAMS, IEPs, all of those, homebound, and 780 that show up in the enrollment numbers. And I believe the number that he gave me, this was last week, was 766 or 760 something. And so anyway, they're up, it looks like about 14 there. So district-wide, it appears that we're going to, right now, up about 25 students. And again, that doesn't mean they're all in the classroom right now. They, you know, whether they're IEP students from other schools, those things. But so 2,875 is the number that we have now compared to 2863 last year. And again, we still have students coming and going. We need to verify all of our numbers that are in the system, but I will get you these numbers out when I feel a little more comfortable. I hate to even give them because they change so fast. Elementary numbers, though, we don't have very many sections in the red, meaning they're closed. We did close 2 sections at Roosevelt, not because there's too many kids in there now, but we don't want to have a big number in there. If we move up next year, it'll make it easier to reduce the section numbers there. So when you look at this, there's going to be a couple in red that are just based on, we don't want to make those classes bigger for next year as they move up. We have 132 students at Washington that's in Donna's program. And currently, I believe the number I had marked was about 12, but more to enroll in the 3- and 4-year-old special ed program down there. I think they are enjoying their new facility, and it's going to work out well for us.
Great.
Let me see if I had... That is all I have, Lance, then, on those things. I will try to get the numbers down to as accurate as we can. They should slow down coming and going, I think, but still moving around.
Very good. Any other questions for Dean on numbers? I did have one other thing. I just wanted to thank Gary Brinker and his staff with Fort Hays State University for helping us conduct our retreat and for getting everything back to us so quickly and in a timely manner. So.
And I would just like to thank everyone who participated in the iPad rollout. I know it was kind of all hands on deck, and it sounds like I just heard really positive things, so appreciate everybody's effort to get that done. I know that was no small undertaking, and as it continues, but I think
it was very positive.
Yeah.
And
Good.
actually fun to see the excitement. I love it. That was one of the funnest things I've done. I wish I could do things like that all the time. Got a little behind. But,
Any other items for discussion by anybody?
The only thing I wanted to ask is, can we, again, look at going back to the tables for work sessions? I know we said we couldn't do it with the video, but we figured out how to do it with the negotiation
yeah, I think we
meeting,
can do
so-
that. Because
I
I
think we
know
got a
I
habit
talked
of
to
after
Mr.
being out
Baldwin,
of
and
the
I think we could
schools.
do it the same way.
Okay.
And,
When we came back from being out at the schools, I think we just got back in the habit of being at the.
yeah, I think that, I mean, just like this, because we have so much dialogue, I mean, you're always trying to move around to make eye contact. And I think that would be great to be around the tables for work sessions again, and they can set up the cameras just like they do for negotiations, microphones.
Yeah,
It shouldn't
that
be,
worked well.
shouldn't be an issue.
And then what is involved to even restructure for board meetings so we're more
It would
able to
take,
see each other?
it would take expanding the 2 sides of these out and filling in, you know, where
Gaps.
it would open it up, where you're setting
These are
that
separate
area.
pieces.
I mean, it can happen, but it's a little bit of an undertaking.
Okay.
But I can have Rusty look at it and
Could
see
we?
what
I think
it
it would
would
help,
take.
because we're always
anyway.
doing this.
Oh, I know. It's really hard to see down the line here, but, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Anything else? Dean, do we need an exec session tonight?
I need just a few minutes on personnel. And I don't know, Bill, do we have anything on negotiations? I think we're just kind of waiting to get everything put together. So I'd say if we go up for personnel for 10 minutes.
Okay. Make a motion
take
to
long.
enter into exec session for a period of 10 minutes to begin at, let's just say, 7:10 and end at 7:20 to include the board superintendent, assistant superintendent, director, actually Tracy's not here, director of curriculum, board attorney, for the purposes of, what was it, personnel?
Personnel.
Personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.